Okay, this video is going to go over the quiz that we did in class on Thursday. That is a review for your test. So in case you didn't get all the answers or you needed some extra explanation. So number 1 says solve for y. So that means, once again, we just use MDR. You're going to use MDR a lot. So since we want y by itself, we want this guy right here by itself, we have to move the 2x because we want to get it away from the y. So to move it, since it's a positive 2x, the opposite would be to subtract 2x. And you always do it to both sides. So now, these would cross off. And so I can just bring down the negative 3y on the left side. And then on the right side, since we just have an x and then a number without an x, we can't put those together, so I just write them out sideways, and you always put the x term first, so negative 2x, and then plus 15. So we've done the move step. Next up is divide. So I have to divide by whatever number is next to my y. So in this problem I have to divide by negative 3. Okay, and then the last step is to reduce. So when we reduce, these would cancel out and I just have y equals. And then when I reduce this negative 2 over negative 3, the negatives would cancel out and become positive. So I'd have positive 2/3 x. And then the 15 over negative 3, that reduces to negative 5. And we're done reducing, so that means we're done with the problem, and this is our answer. Okay, next one, number 2, says the energy E of a moving object is called kinetic energy. It is calculated using the formula E equals 1/2 mv squared, where m is the object's mass in kilograms, and v is the speed in meters per second. And they want us to solve for m. So once again, we just use MDR. So on this problem, we don't have anything to move. The way you know that is you look to see if there's any adding or subtracting. And this problem has no adding or subtracting, so our move step is already taken care of. Okay, so next is divide. So since we don't have anything to move, we know we have to divide by every other thing besides what we're solving for. So since we're solving for m, I need to divide by everything except for m. So that would be 1/2 mv squared. So that would make everything cancel out except for the m. Now, the confusing part here is that dividing by a fraction, that's really the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, and the reciprocal is 2. So really we're just multiplying this by 2. So that means that the 2 is going to go on the top. So we'd have 2e over v squared. And that is the answer. Once you have m by itself, you know you're done. Next one, which of the following equations has the same y-intercept as the line shown in the graph? So the y-intercept, we want to look at the y-axis. And on the y-axis we have a point right here. So this point is 0, -4. So now we have to figure out which of these has that same point in it. So there's a couple ways you could do this. I'll show you one way on this first from the first answer choice. I'll show you another way on another one. So you could do what you typically do when you're trying to find the y-intercept, and that's make x equals 0. And so if I did that in this problem, I'd have 0 minus y equals 4. So once again, we have negative y equals 4. And since I need to get rid of this negative, I just divide by -1. And this would give us y equals -4. And so obviously this one's the right answer, right? We got -4. for that one. Now just to show you another way you could do it, let's look at this problem. Since we know an x value and a y value, you could plug in those. So like for instance, 3 times 0, since 0 is our x value, minus -4, since that's our y value, equals 6. And you just have to see if it actually equals 6. So you know this is 0, and since we have 2 minus signs right here, it makes it a plus. So you'd end up with 4 equals 6, which is obviously not true, right? So that's one way you could tell that that's not the right answer. So really, you could do it either way you like better, whichever way makes sense to you. They'll both work. Okay, which of the following has a 0 at 4? So 0, you have to know that that means x-intercept. So when we're looking for an x-intercept, do you want to make y equals 0? So starting with the first answer choice, if I made y equals 0, I would have this, and then I would have to solve for x. So you'd have to subtract 4 on both sides, which gives you -4 equals 3x, and then you divide by 3. Now, this is not 4, so we know that A is wrong. Okay, then if we go and do our answer choice B, I replace y with 0, and once again solve for x, so you have to add 2 on this one. 0 plus 2 is 2, and then divide by 4. And 2 divided by 4, that's 1/2, so that once again does not give us the answer we're looking for. Okay, now we can look at C. Make y equals 0. So the 0 would go away. We'd have 2x equals -4. If you divide by 2, this gives us -2. Once again, not 4, can't be the answer. So hopefully the last one works, but we'll check it just to be sure. If I replace y with 0, -2 times 0 is 0, and I get x equals 4. Yay! So D is the right answer. Okay, number 5, determine the slope and y-intercept of the equation and graph it on the grid below. So on this one, they didn't give it to us in y equals mx plus b form, so I have to solve for y in order to do this problem. So we're going to use MDR. So we have to move the 3x, so we're going to subtract 3x. So we'd end up with this, and that's move. Now we divide by the coefficient of y, which is 2, and then just reduce. So you get y equals -3/2 can't be reduced, so you leave it. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now that it's in y equals mx plus b form, we can easily tell what our m value is and what our b value is. So if you just write it underneath there, you can tell that m lines up with -3/2 and b lines up with 3. Now our last step, we just got to graph it. So remember, always start on your b, and it goes on the y-axis. So you'd count up 3 and put a dot. Now since our slope is -3/2, -3 means you have to go down 3, and then the bottom one is how many you go to the right. So start at 3, go down 3, and right 2. Down 3 and right 2. And just keep going. You can go the other way by going up 3 and left 2. And then just draw your line. Okay, on this one says the table shows the number of minutes it takes a bicyclist to travel along a level road, and wants to know what's the rate of change. And rate of change is just a fancy way of saying slope. So I need to use the slope formula, which is y2, if it will write, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So since we have like 3 points in this table, I just need to pick 2 of them. So I'm going to go at the top 2, right here. So I have 2 points, 3, 1125, and 5, 1875. So you can label your points just like we always do in class: x1, y1, x2, y2. Now to find the slope, just plug it into the formula. Our y2 value is 1875 minus y1 is 1125 divided by x2 is 5, x1 is 3. Now you just have to do the subtraction. So 1875 minus 1125 is 750. Then 5 minus 3 is 2. So then you divide 750 by 2, and our answer is 375, and it'd be meters per minute. It tells us that in the problem. It says meters per minute. Okay, this one's kind of tricky. It says what's the value of r so that the line that passes through the pair of points has the given slope. So once again, we're going to use our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And plug it in. So we would end up having 12 minus 8 over r minus negative 4. So since we have a minus and negative, it's really plus. So 12 minus 8 is 4. And then we don't know what the bottom is, so I'm just going to leave it r plus 4. Now we do know what we want it to be. I have the 4, but I need to figure out what r needs to be to make the bottom 3. So I can do that by setting up an equation. Then all you have to do, subtract 4, and our r value is negative 1. Okay, this one, which of the following is the graph of x minus 2y equals 2? We have to solve it for y. There's a lot of solving for y in here. So subtract x. And then divide by negative 2. This is MDR. Okay, so when we reduce, this is like a negative 1 right here. So our negatives would cancel, and we'd have 1/2 x minus 1. This gives us negative 1. Now we got to figure out which one starts at negative 1. So this one up here, it doesn't start at negative 1. It starts at 3. So I can cross that out. This one does. This one starts at negative 1. This one starts at 2, so I can cross that out. Okay, and then you use the 1/2. That means it needs to go up 1 and right 2. So if you look at C, if I go up 1 and right 2, it's over here. So C clearly doesn't work. But if I go to D, it goes up 1 and right 2, and you end up right there. So B is our answer. Okay, this one, they want us to write an equation. They tell us there's 2,000 toads, and then it's decreasing at a rate of 200 per year. So the equation, every year it's decreasing by 200, and x stands for number of years. But we know we started off with 2,000, so that would be our equation. So in this problem, the slope, since whatever is next to x is your slope, it's negative 200, and y-intercept is 2,000.